I didn't recognize myself in the reflection of that cracked side mirror. 22 years overseas changes a man, even after he thinks he's done changing. You come home expecting peace, quiet fields, familiar earth, the rhythm of chores instead of the rhythm of gunfire. And for a while, that's exactly what I had. My father's land, 9 acres of apple trees tucked at the edge of Maple Hollow. Took me in like an old friend. The soil still held his footprints. The breeze still carried the same orchard sweetness I grew up breathing. I rebuilt my life with pruning shears and feed buckets, one day at a time. But Maple Hollow wasn't the same place I left behind. City people had moved in, the kind who wanted rustic charm without the dirt, the noise, or the work that created it. And they brought the HOA with them like missionaries spreading a new religion. I didn't bother them, didn't speak at meetings. I was the quiet guy with mud on his boots, the one kids whispered about. Then a Bentley showed up, a convertible, pearl white, sunglasses gleaming. It prowled down my gravel road like a shark gliding through a shallow pond. The new owner of the mansion on the ridge, Karen Whitlock, real estate royalty, HOA darling, serial complainer, collector of petty lawsuits. I figured we'd never cross paths. I was wrong. The trespass. It was the deep tire gouges that did it. A neat pair of tracks carved straight through my east orchard, cutting between my golden delicious rows like a wound. 3 saplings broken. A valve snapped. Branches twisted and dying. Someone had literally driven through my orchard as if it were a public park. I followed the path with a sick feeling curling in my stomach. It led directly toward Karen's mansion. The next morning I walked to her place. She was sprawled on a lounge chair like she owned the sun. Designer sunglasses, glittering drink, a tiny white dog with a diamond collar. "Can I help you?" she asked without looking at me. I told her it was my land she was driving through, my orchard, my property. She lifted her sunglasses halfway, gave me a lazy smile. "It's just a shortcut. Nothing happened. Don't be dramatic." Dramatic? I left before my temper said something my conscience would remember. I checked every plat map and parcel record that night. No easement, no shared access, nothing. I sent emails, photos, documentation. The HOA replied with a single line, "We'll discuss this at next month's meeting." Next month? Meanwhile, Karen kept cutting through like my orchard was her personal driveway, the line you don't cross. My grandfather used to say, "If you don't set boundaries, people will build their homes on your spine." That night, those words echoed louder than ever. So I put up a sign, billboards, stakes, private property, do not enter. By noon, the sign was flattened like something had rammed it. Tire marks, splinters, deliberate. I wasn't just angry, I felt violated. That land carried my father's ashes beneath a Macintosh tree, and she treated it like an inconvenience. Then the HOA newsletter arrived. The HOA does not acknowledge unauthorized signage on communal view sheds. Communal view sheds? That's when I stopped being nice neighbor Owen. People always assume revenge starts with anger. It doesn't. It starts with planning. I filed a permit for an erosion control trench. Perfectly legal. Agricultural protection measure. Approved within 2 days. Then at dawn, while the rest of Maple Hollow slept, I dug. A 6-foot-wide trench running, exactly where Karen's tires always appeared. One side a steep drop, the other a gentle slope, camouflaged with mesh and fallen leaves. Safe for wildlife, invisible to someone speeding through forbidden land. It wasn't a trap. It was a boundary with teeth. I posted laminated copies of the county permit. You couldn't miss them unless you wanted to. 3 mornings later, I heard it, the purr of the Bentley's engine, the familiar reckless acceleration. Then, whomp, a metallic crunch, a shriek like a soprano hitting a bad note. I walked up slow, coffee in hand. Her Bentley sat tilted, rear wheels kicking air like a panicked animal. Coolant dripping, apple mush scattered around like confetti. Karen, hair tangled, mascara streaming, heels sinking into the torn leather, stared at me like I had detonated a bomb. "You tried to kill me," she screamed. This is a setup, a trap. I held up the permit like a holy scripture. No, I said calmly. This is a legally approved soil conservation trench, and you are trespassing. Again. She called the sheriff. She called her lawyer. She called the HOA president. Deputy Marla Rain showed up. I handed her the folder, every email, every map, every ignored warning. She read it all, slowly. Then she turned to Karen. Ma'am, you're at fault. The trench is legal. The trespassing is documented. You ignored posted warnings. Karen's jaw actually dropped. But humiliation wasn't enough for her. Not even close. The war. She sued me for damages. The HOA fined me for landscape hazards. Letters. Threats. Bureaucratic poison dripping through my inbox. But the worst was when a concerned HOA representative showed up at my daughter's apartment 2 states away, implying they knew where my family lived. That was the last straw. My lawyer, Tom, Marine vet, the kind who doesn't flinch, filed a countersuit for harassment, property destruction, and targeted intimidation. Then we subpoenaed the HOA's internal communications. What we found was a bonfire waiting for a match. They had doctored maps, manipulated votes, redirected fines, and used Karen's influence like a crowbar to pry at my land for months. We didn't just go to court. We went to the city council. The room was packed. Neighbors I barely knew stood behind me. The retired mechanic, the schoolteacher, the tow truck operator who pulled Karen's Bentley out of the trench. I didn't speak like a lawyer. I spoke like a man whose roots were being ripped up. When I finished, no one breathed for several seconds. Then the vote came. Unanimous. Karen was removed from every board seat. The HOA leadership dissolved pending investigation. All claims against me dismissed. 2 weeks later, her mansion went dark. A moving truck came at dawn. She left without saying a word. The trench is still there. Not hidden, not dangerous. Just a reminder. Kids ride their bikes past and point at it like a landmark. That's where the fancy car lady drove into the ground. They whisper. I built a bench beside it, planted wildflowers. Sometimes I sit there in the evenings, listening to the orchard breathe, because peace isn't something you inherit. It's something you protect. Sometimes with fences, sometimes with lawyers, and sometimes with a trench deep enough to stop a Bentley.